Hello, it's the Ancestor the Advocate, and this is video number 6 on the Ancestor Veneration video course. And the topic of this video is the dire and urgent situation regarding our ancestors due to the Maafa. Now, the Maafa is a Swahili term that means a very terrible casualty, something that was bad and catastrophic, and something that had affected many individuals. And within this context, as it's used within a more global sense, a more diasporic sense, it's regarding the catastrophe, the great tragedy of colonization, of the massive human trafficking that went on in the last couple centuries, the enslavement of mostly melanin dominant people, slavery in a sense, in one word, if we're gonna go like say it like that. And the Maafa is not necessarily something that has happened only within the last 400 years. The Arabs have been doing it for, you know, way longer than that. And there's some BS that was happening even before that. So a good resource on this kind of thing, if you want to have a timeline on, let's say, the destruction of African civilization, go get the book, The Destruction of African Civilizations by Chancellor Williams. And he has a very interesting timeline, very detailed, going back as far as at least around 6,000 years to present day, giving you a quick, or let me say a condensed overview of, what's been happening and the changes and, good and bad. A lot of it's been, unfortunately, not good. It's been bad when you look at it from a big picture perspective. But anyway, this video is to address the how this situation affects the ancestors even after their human lifetime, when they're in the afterlife, how the tragedy of their life experiences during the enslavement period may continue to affect some of them or a significant portion of them. You may refer to my last video when I was describing the loss of the discriminatory mind, or the warrior mind, or the scrutinizing mind after death, and how it falls more into the background a lot, at least in a sense. I went into the different, should I say, variables, or the possibilities are not, just a single one. Everyone does not die exactly the same way or experience death the same way and afterlife the exact same way. There's many things to consider that can factor into the situation, but definitely that was all explained in the previous video. Hopefully you did watch it. Now, within that context of what I said in that video, apply the situation of a lifetime of, trauma basically, and imagine that being somewhat extended to a certain degree into the afterlife. A good example, to piggyback off of what I said previously, is, for example, if you were working at McDonald's or any other fast food place, or you were a mechanic and you had 12-hour shifts every day for 2 weeks. Let's say it's a new job. I bet you at night your dreams would start to shift to you, still doing your mechanic job or flipping burgers in your dreams still, because you have spent a large amount of time and energy doing that in your waking life, to a point where it's imprinted itself deeply enough within your psyche, within your energy systems. So that becomes now the tendency that carries on even when you're in dream state. And because it's, again, the idea of lucidity can be sometimes challenging for some individuals, right? To be able to know, because we've all had those dreams where we were dreaming and we're doing something from, I don't know, kindergarten or grade school, still taking tests that you've already taken, and you're in a dream, you're still doing it, but it doesn't really hit you to question, so why are you here again? You're just flowing with the tendencies. You're not very scrutinizing, you know? And these level of dreams are simply putting back to you what you gave to them through experiences, what you gave to yourself through these life experiences, or what you have through your life experiences. It's kind of like a quick grab. If you're going to construct a reality outside of the physical domain, or this physical domain at least, it's going to you're going to look for some raw material, and the impressions of your human life are going to be the most immediate, quick to grab raw material for that. And if you are not conscious enough, it can be trick to break out of some situations that you have recreated for yourself that may not be ideal. Okay, again, a lot of this has already been explained in the Loss of the Discriminatory Mind video. Hopefully you watched that. If you have not, please watch that before watching this one. Now consider, this is something that is similar to, when people die, they also, many of them tend to live on through their tendencies and inclinations and the impressions of, uh, the memory of what human experiences they had, kind of like their karma in a sense. Well, it is their karma actually. Okay. Now, karma is not something bad. Karma simply means action. Okay, karma simply means uh, the previous causes that have resulted to where you are now in space and time within your emotionality, physiology, psychology, whatever. It's basically memory. Karma is memory. Okay, and if you live in your memory, then you're going to recreate old scenarios, and that is pretty much the effect of karma, the effect of memory, how it can affect your current moment based on the past. Now apply that situation, that metaphor, to when people die, and let's say someone all their life was a slave, someone all their life was a slave boy, lived through so much trauma, they worked for the white boy all their lives, worshiping them basically, within their life experience, not just because of the religion, but also because of the dynamics between these two groups of people, right? I don't have to explain much for anyone to understand that that period of enslavement, regardless of whatever era it occurred in, was definitely extremely traumatic and extremely. Well, should I just say extremely traumatic? It was traumatic. Let's just make it simple. It was traumatic. It was terrible, and it left many, many communities, civilizations, and broken. We even have the residue of the effects down affecting us today. Dr. Joy DeGruy has a lot of information on the residual effects of these events. She calls it post-traumatic slave syndrome, and she goes really deep into it. But and unfortunately, that's also part of our inheritance, part of our collective karma, in a sense. But these events, right? If someone had lived through them, and many people have, well, then their afterlife experience, it's possible for them to recreate um, the same negative events and situations and scenarios that they had also lived through, because they lived through their tendencies, because that was such a deep and sharp impression on their spirit. They tend to, even within the spirit world, it's possible to propagate the same and multiply those experiences even tenfold, even 100-fold, because there's no discriminatory or scrutinizing mind. There is no limit to, let's say, how much joy can multiply for you, and also how much terror and despair and sadness and trauma can multiply for you as well. And unfortunately, that's also the case. All right. So don't just think because they're buried, they're dead and gone, when you talk about them, that it's all over. We're dealing with souls, we're dealing with spirits. Okay, so life does not end, they're just in another dimension. And some of them may still be continuing to go through slavery. It's gotta say as it is. Some of the ancestors are still going through slavery, are still going through the intense trauma and trapped in it and not knowing how to break out of it. Not even knowing that they can even. It's a very dire and urgent situation, especially considering how many of our ancestors have been affected by it. Pretty much, just about almost every black person in this world has been affected by the Maafa. And that includes all of our ancestors as well, for generations upon generations. So there is a very serious need for a spiritual, social justice kind of thing, so spiritual collective justice, or reparation, or liberation kind of movement or work that seriously needs to be done, and it's upon any descendant who is on earth today, because every black person or anyone at all has ancestors. But you didn't come here by thin air. You didn't drop from the sky. You came through the womb of a mother who also came through the womb of her mother, and so the ancestral line, the bloodline is there. And there's stories about, when people start connecting with their ancestors. Their ancestors tell them, hey, it's been 400 years and no one has ever reached back to us. No one has ever reached back to this bloodline, and your veneration is helpful. It's liberated some of us too out here. You know, there's stories about people driving, across farms and realize that the farm was a plantation, and they can see people working on the plantation, but it's actually spirits working there. Spirits of ancient black people, who that was their livelihood, and because it was all they were exposed to, all they felt, it was the majority of the impressions within their psyche that mattered to them, whether positively or negatively. Definitely negatively, it happens to be the impression on their spirit. So even when they die, they still recreate the same situation for themselves because they're trapped in that experience. Right, and it takes things like ancestor veneration to help liberate those souls, those spirits. Everyone likes to say, well, it's in God's hands. Well, that's how things turn into a fucking big ass mess because you left it to no chance. You gotta take up the responsibility to clean up some of this shit. I like to say you gotta take the responsibility to be God, you know, to be the divine one, because we are. This whole waiting game, waiting for the rapture, as the Christians would say, waiting on, JC, sweet Lord, to come down and riding a horse in a chariot in the sky. This whole, no, a lot of people gotta quit with the waiting game and take up some initiative and responsibility. It's very depressing how a lot of us have lost that sense of responsibility and integrity. That sense of, I gotta do something about this. I ain't waiting on no, but I gotta do it because it's serious. Once you understand it, it's serious. You gotta do it. If it's within your the boundaries of your activity and potential, so to speak. Okay. So I just wanted to make that video to let y'all know. And I'm speaking calmly today, but don't take my calmness as a sedative. Is that the right word? Don't take my calmness as a tranquilizer. This is definitely a very urgent situation. Urgent. Dire. People in the space of ancestor veneration, there comes a time when you feel it in your heart, you feel it all over your spirit, just the immensity of what this means, what all those generations of centuries of trauma, what it adds up to in the spiritual realms, and how many spirits are maybe stuck in some cycles of that same trauma. And I have another video coming up about the correspondence between the ancestral realm and the human realm, the ancestral community and the human community, and how even some problems that people have, let's say the black community has in their community right now, can be a correspondence of the issues that may also be going on in the ancestral community as well. Okay, because as above, so below kind of things going on here. And there's a strong connection to bloodlines, between people of the same bloodline, between DNA, people who have shared the same ancestry, regardless of which realm you're in. There's a powerful connection that's possible there, and that can, cross effects, if you will. So please keep that in mind. Basically, yeah, I said it all. If anything in this video is unclear, please let me know. Hit me up. You can comment on this video or reach out to me via email, and I'll be glad to clear up some things for you. This is not necessarily to push or scare people to get into this work, but I'm just stating the reality of what it is. So let's please take it seriously as it needs to be taken seriously. I think I have one last thing to say. Just to recap, I'll recap. Everything I said in this video is pretty much like what I said in the, well, take the understanding of the video where I was talking about the loss of the discriminatory mind and everything I said there, and apply the situation of the great enslavement, the Maafa, and the colonization era. Apply that to what was said in that video, which is pretty much what I'm doing in this video. Okay. So yeah, I said what I needed to say. I appreciate you for watching this video series. Go hop on video number 7, which is going into the codes of ethics, conduct, and behaviors and integrity when it comes to this work, because there's some things that need to be said about how people like to talk about ancestor work that I do not really appreciate. So definitely check that video out. And after video number 7, there should be at least 2 or 3 more videos lined up for you. And if I have more videos to line up into this series, I'll also, let you know, and they'll be coming up pretty soon. Again, thank you for watching, and take care.